Don't say I didn't warn you. BYD's hybrid sales are literally crashing. They're down nearly 25%. Their electric car sales are skyrocketing, up 35%. Clearly, demand for plug-in hybrids is diminishing, in particular for BYD's plug-in hybrids, and demand for EVs is continuing to surge. Now, I've been trying to warn people, buying a plug-in hybrid, if your concern is resale value, if it's not, then who cares? But if your concern is resale value, you need to consider what is actually happening in major markets like China, which represents around 40% of the world's car sales. YouTube's new algorithm means that you're often not getting all of our videos in your feed. There's 7,500. I'm pretty sure you're probably not seeing a lot of them. In the description, there is a link to our newsletter. Click on that and you can get an update every day of all the latest news in the electric car industry. So hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. BYD. Sales numbers basically flat versus last month. But the big news is what's actually happening with BYD sales. BYD sold 80,800 vehicles overseas in August, growing 157% year on year. And that's good. It was the same as July. Sales overseas were basically the same as last month. But as you can see, BYD badly needed to diversify. It was at risk of being so China-centric that if there was some sort of shock in China, it could, well, have all of its eggs in one basket. But that's clearly changing, which is a really good move from BYD. The company sold 373,000 vehicles in August, marking a 0.15% year-on-year increase. In other words, they sold almost exactly the same number of cars in August this year versus what they sold in August of last year. That means that BYD sales in China have actually declined in August of this year versus August of last year. That's, I think, really interesting. Competition in China is fierce. BYD has reduced its prices. In fact, it just reduced its prices of its direct Tesla Model 3 rival, which now costs $16,000, and the Model 3 is like $30,000. Actually, Model 3 is actually about $32,000, the cheapest version. It's half the price of a Model 3. Anyhow, this is the second consecutive month that BYD's new energy vehicles, or basically BYD's sales growth, has remained below 1% year on year. In other words, it hasn't grown at all versus last year. BYD's NEVs include passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles. Passenger vehicles, while there was 371,000 deliveries, which was an increase of 0.17%, statistically irrelevant, but it was an increase of 8.9% versus last month. Now you can see here, this chart from chinaev Post shows you what exactly is going on. And that green line is where BYD is right now. Last year, BYD sales in the months of July and August, as you can see, were continuing to increase. But this year, they've been flat. Since March, sales have been flat. July was down a bit, but as you can see, really for 5 months in a row, pretty much flat, which is very unusual. Looking at BYD's year of 2023 and 2024, you can see there wasn't really any flatness there. It was all pretty much growth. Looking at BYD's commercial vehicles, their sales were 2,125, which was a decline of around 5% year on year. And it was down 35% versus last month. BYD had a really good start to the year for commercial vehicles, but they've been declining recently. I'm not sure why. I've got no idea. When it comes to EVs, though, this is the one area where BYD is clearly winning. Their EV sales increased by 34.5% year on year and 12.2% versus last month. In other words, BYD, clearly their focus has been on plug-in hybrids for the past 12 months. There's no doubt it has. The majority of their investment money has gone into their plug-in hybrids. Look at how many models they have. The luxury cars they sell, most of them are plug-in hybrids. Not all of them, but most of them. Demand for those vehicles is going down. And there's a lot of tough competition for BYD with plug-in hybrids now. There's plenty of EREVs. which people in China and engineers will tell you are more an EV with a generator motor, whereas a plug-in hybrid is more of an internal combustion car, and sort of it's more of a hybrid, put it that way. So there's the perception from a lot of people that EREVs are better. Not necessarily they are, but that's the perception. And a lot of these newer plug-in hybrids and newer EREVs from other manufacturers have a lot more electric-only range. And I suspect maybe that's part of the reason for the decline, but it also could be the fact that, to be honest, more people just want to buy an electric car now. They're getting used to the concept of going electric. So you can see here, BYD's passenger EV monthly sales have done really well this year and have continued to increase in a similar way to how they increased over the past 2 years. But BYD's plug-in hybrids have not done that at all. And in fact, you can see here they're trending well below last year. I mean, it's not just 1 month. They're trended below last year now for 4 straight months in a row. As you can see here, in April, plug-in hybrid sales for BYD were the same as April last year. But then May, June, July, and August, they were all down. And the decline is actually growing. Look at the difference here between August, right? It's greater than the difference in July. Basically, this decline in BYD's plug-in hybrid growth and the decline in sales is actually very, very significant. And it's a pretty strong indicator of where customer demand actually is. So in terms of customer demand, which cars are actually selling? Here's the breakdown. BYD's Chin, the EV version, was discounted, I believe about 3 days ago, to $16,000 now for the base version, or it might be $15,000. It's around $15,000 or $16,000. But BYD delivered 62,600 of the Chin family vehicles. That's BYD's top selling lineup. But sales have gone down by 11.2% year on year. The BYD Seal, 54,000 was sold in August. That means it surpassed the Song family to become BYD's second highest selling lineup. There's a few different Seal models, of course, now. There's, I think, about 5 different Seal models, if I remember correctly. I lose track, sorry guys. But anyway, you can see here BYD Seal sales are also basically the same as last year. And a lot of them are electric, a much higher percentage. BYD C-Line, you can see the C-Line is doing quite well. C-Line sales 53,300 for the C-Line family. That's not just the C-Line itself, but there's a few different models of C-Line. BYD Song sales, as you can see, have declined. The BYD Song is primarily sold as a plug-in hybrid. And then we come to the BYD UN family monthly sales. You're talking about the Atto 3, the Atto 2, and their sales, as you can see, are down a little bit versus last year. BYD Seagull sales have dropped off significantly too. There's a lot of really compelling rivals for the Seagull in China. Seagull sales were a total of 34,000, which was down 16% year on year, and also down 24% versus last month. BYD Dolphin. The Dolphin is, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because actually, as you can see here, 2023 was BYD Dolphin crushed it. 2024, not great, but it's bounced back a bit this year. BYD Dolphins, there was 21,700 delivered. And that's one of the cars that BYD sells outside of China in quite a few different countries. Now, the new BYD Han. The BYD Han is the Han and the Tang, they're the only 2 models that currently have BYD's 1,000 volt architecture and their new BYD Blade battery version 2. But demand for the Han, it's shocking. I thought it would be huge. I thought a lot of people would want it, but sales are, well down. In fact, they're down 45% versus last year and 24% versus last month, which is a big surprise to me. BYD Tang. The BYD Tang, same thing. The BYD Tang L, that's the only version, the only SUV which comes with BYD's 1,000 volt architecture, 1,000 kilowatt charging, and the BYD Tang sales have gone down too. So looking at Tangs, they are down 26% year on year. I should say 27% actually. And they're also down 26% versus last month. So those are the majority of the BYD sales. That makes up the majority. About 90% of BYD's car sales are what we've just run through. Very interesting here. I don't think you can say they're doing badly to meet the sales, to basically match their sales numbers of last year. but it's certainly not what anyone expected. I think we all expected BYD to continue growing. That growth has obviously stopped. When it comes to plug-in hybrids, it's obviously going way backwards quite quickly. But fortunately, BYD's EV sales have gone forwards very fast. If BYD can kind of rush some of these new batteries to market, that would be really good for them, because obviously the Blade battery's been around for a long time now. BYD's competition now have higher energy density LFP batteries that they're using that can charge much faster, 800 volt architectures, which BYD doesn't use for most of their cars. So I think BYD does need to maybe move away from their massive investments into plug-in hybrids. I mean, they have hundreds of thousands of staff working on them. And I think pivot away and maybe invest more in EVs. That's what I would be doing. That's what I would be thinking. What do you guys think? Let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching.